GM. GM. Today is Saturday. Quick update. Not going to really look at the market that much since it's a weekend. But I am going to talk a little bit about the supply, money supply, the stock market, and why the markets actually go up. So people talk a lot about the Fed funds rate, and that when the Fed cuts rate, it usually leads to a collapse in the stock market, and it leads to prices going down. There's a couple of problems I have with that. The first one being this. This is the stock market when you actually account for the money supply. So the actual increase of the number of dollars. And the stock market's never got anywhere near its 2000 levels. Why is that? Right? Because you look at this, there it is compared to the money supply. So that's the S&P divided by the US M2 money supply. But here is the exact same chart just off the S&P itself, right? From 1990 to present day. So why did the first one peak here and the second one, so why did the US M2 rated chart peak here and this one is at all-time highs now? Because of money printing. Whenever the stock market was up here in 2000, there weren't that many dollars in circulation. Right? If we could see, let me put an indicator on here to actually show the money supply, and you'll see even more clearly. M2 global M2 I'll just do this one. Right. So what's going on here? Is that they've increased the number of dollars in circulation. So this only goes back to 2008, unfortunately. But you can see that since 2008, the money supply has gone up. That's monetary inflation. If you print more money, everything else is going to get more expensive. Why? Because if you have more money, right? If you have more supply of something, but the demand is the same, that money is not going to be worth as much. Yeah, like if you have more supply and the same level of demand, the price of something will fall. So that's the equivalent of the dollar, right? If you had, I don't know, what would we say? If you had a million people and a million houses, and the cost of a house was $1, if you increase the number of houses to 10 million, the price of each house would drop. So when you have the money supply, the number of dollars, if you imagine a dollar as having value, $1 equaling $1, if you increase the number of dollars, $1 is no longer equal $1. It's not worth $1. So just since 2008, it's gone from basically 4 trillion to 10 trillion by this measure. So that's up 150% just since 2008. So $1 since 2008 has devalued because they've 1.5 times the supply, right? Sorry, 2.5 times, 150%. It's a shame this doesn't go back further, because if you go back even further, it's even lower in 2000. And that's why. The reason why the stock market has gone up in just straight nominal terms is because of all the printing. It has to go up in response to that. But if you've actually owned stocks since 2009, since the bottom, you're up, which is great, but you haven't actually outpaced the level of printing. Your relative purchasing power since 2007 is basically the same. It's only just starting to climb up. And the amount you would have had in relative terms since 2000 is actually down. Now, in reality, that doesn't matter, because what can you own? This isn't to say that owning stocks is bad. Owning stocks has been very good because everything else, apart from maybe real estate, is also down in nominal terms. Meaning, if you've owned stocks since '08 or '09 at the bottom, let's say, you're up 650%, right? So you've done well if you own them from the bottom of 2009. If you just kept cash, you're fucked because the money supply has increased 2.5 times and the stock market's up 6.5 and Bitcoin's up fucking 800,000% or whatever from 2009 when it launched. Gold is up. Property prices are up. The people who get fucked are the people who don't own some kind of asset. So even though they're debasing the currency, if you own stocks over time, you tend to retain purchasing power in relative terms. Even though, when you divide it by the money supply, it's not even back to 2000 levels, you're still better off than the next person who doesn't own stocks. It's all relative. Nobody looks at this chart, and this is the important part to me. No one looks at this chart and thinks it's bad to own stocks. That's a terrible conclusion to come to. Because what else can you own? Right? It's not about... This is just to highlight that stocks are not overbought. They are not super expensive. When you account for the increase of money supply, stocks are just fine. And even if you just take out from 2009, this is the real path of stocks when also accounting for the money supply increase. Which means your stocks are up 200%. So this is the part I want to zoom in and focus on. If you go to 2009, remember the way people will tell you, oh, my stocks are up 650% since 2009. They are, but they also 2.5x the money supply. So in real terms, you're up 200%, which again, 3x. That's great. That's excellent. Because the person who doesn't own assets is not up 3x. If somebody has no money and they're living paycheck to paycheck, they're at least three times worse off than you for owning stocks, who own stocks. That's how it works. It's all relative. Now, moving forward, the talk about the Fed cutting rates, and that when they cut rates, it's always before a market crash. So Fed funds rate, I think this should show it. How far back does it go? It doesn't go back far enough. You're going to see it further back. But anyway, you can see it here pretty clearly. That when the Fed cut rates in 2000, it led to a massive decline. Then the Fed cut rates in 2007, it led to a massive decline. And then the Fed cut rates in 2019, and we went up. Then we went into COVID, which people say was a massive decline, and then the printer started. The problem is, people are, again, it's just like the yield curve. People are looking at the wrong data. And it's the correlation is backwards. People will say, look, every time the Fed cuts rates, the market goes down. But why is it not the other way around? Why is it not that the Fed cut rates in response to an already broken economy? Because that's the truth. It's not the Fed cutting rates that makes the market go down. It's the other way around. The Fed cutting rates makes debt cheaper, eases financial conditions, makes it easier for companies and institutions to borrow. It improves liquidity conditions. So why do you think they would do that? They usually, at least in the past, have done that when things got really tight, when things got bad. Not when they got good. Because if things are going fine, you don't do anything, right? But if you suddenly have to start cutting rates, it means there's financial stress. We don't have financial stress at the moment. It's not to say that everything's good. Everything's not good. Everything's terrible. But we know what their response is, which is to cut rates and to print money, ease, quantitative easing through whatever way they call it. They either call it QE, they call it the Bank Term Funding Program, they call it whatever assistance. So you see like the stuff going on with the regional banks and the commercial real estate now, where these banks are getting into dangerous situations. That's just going to lead to the Fed doing the same thing they've done before, which is, don't worry, we're going to set aside a few $100 billion. If you need this, here it is. The market is going to take that and go, yet more easing, yet more promises of printing. We are going to push assets up again because they're doing the same thing. If that M2 supply keeps increasing, the stock market will keep going up, gold will keep going up, Bitcoin will keep going up until something changes. Rates don't matter. They really don't. This correlation is completely wrong. It's backwards. Because when they cut rates, it's usually in a slowing economy. Because when the economy slows, they try and stimulate. The economy's not slowing. The US economy is doing great. GDP is positive. There was no recession. We just had another massive jobs print yesterday with huge, double